Hello and welcome to Musical Exploring Music with Kalyani. I am thrilled to announce a new series called No Strings Attached on the channel with two of the most promising young musicians in the town, Abhay Nayampally and Harsh Narayan. Today we are into the first episode of this two-episode short series with Abhay. Abhay is a Carnatic classical guitarist. Yes, that can sound a little strange, but it's true. More about that in the video. He was initially trained in music by his mother. Conversant with Carnatic classical music, he then developed an inclination towards guitar and then thought of blending the two. He has received training from his guru and mentor Vidwan U. Srinivas. He is one of the very few people across the globe who play this rigorous art form on a guitar. Recently, Abhay produced and published a self titled debut album, which was very well received on all platforms and made it to the final ballot rounds of 64th Grammy Award for the category of Best Global Music Album. Let's welcome on board Abhay for a candid conversation with no strings attached. Hello and welcome to Musical Exploring Music with Kalyani. As we are doing this series, and you must have come to know from the title and thumbnail who our guest is for the day, Abhay Nayampally.
Hi.
The Carnatic guitarist, more about which he will tell us during the course of the interview. Uh, as I said in the introduction, the instrument that he plays is guitar, but the style in which he plays it is Carnatic classical music. So, Abhay, can you just share with the viewers of Musical, where did this style come from? Where can you trace it back? And how did you come to play it?
So this style of music actually is, it's quite ancient, and there are references to some of the ragas in Carnatic music, even in the Vedas and all that. So it's been around for a long time, and obviously it's evolved with time, and the approaches have evolved, the kind of content has evolved, the concert format itself has evolved completely from what it used to be. But Carnatic music has been around for a very long time in India, probably even before any other classical form existed in India. And I came across it since my childhood. I mean, my mom had learned Carnatic, so there are audio recordings of me singing very funnily, learning from my mom. So there are audio recordings of me singing. I mean, I have no memory of that, but the recordings stand as proof. And so I've always been around Carnatic music in some way or the other. So it's something that I've grown up to like a lot as a form of expression, as a soundscape in itself, the kind of music that it, the kind of creativity that it allows. So for me, that's what Carnatic music always stood for. And I think that's what drove me to the decision to take Carnatic up full time. So that's how I started playing Carnatic music. So
Carnatic music.
yeah.
And how did you come to guitar?
Guitar I'd been playing for a long time. I've been playing guitar for almost 20 to 22 years now. And
That's a really long time.
yeah, that is very long. That makes me feel very old. But I mean, when I initially started playing guitar, it wasn't Carnatic music. I used to play regular Western guitar, and I even played that professionally for a few years. Rock, jazz, blues, jazz fusion, all of those genres. And then after about 5-6 years of doing that, I came to the conclusion that I just felt like Carnatic music was a calling. And I completely changed my style of playing. I entered into that full time. I started studying it under my late guru, Mandolin Srinivas ji. And yeah, here I am.
Okay. So can you just like explain a little more about how does guitar blend with Carnatic music? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking this. Because every instrument comes with its own features.
Yeah, yeah,
For example, sitar comes with its own tone.
yeah,
Similarly, guitar also comes with its own tone, and the origins of guitar are somewhere else.
yeah,
I mean, one can also say that, at some point of time, even harmonium and violin
yeah,
came from outside.
yeah,
But
yeah,
they have been merged with Hindustani classical and Carnatic classical respectively
yeah,
so much that you now cannot think of these
yeah,
kinds of music without harmonium and violin.
yeah, yeah,
Similarly, for guitar, why I'm asking this is because the intonation of guitar is the tone of guitar is very strange to the tone of Carnatic music
yeah, yeah,
traditionally.
yeah.
Can you
So
tell us more about it?
the thing is, the guitar is actually a very interesting instrument. If we, just take an overall look at the kind of genres that the guitar has been involved with, whether it's in India or whether it's abroad, mainly abroad, you'll find that the guitar has been used in practically every genre of music that we can think of. So, starting with Western classical music, the guitar has been extensively used there. Then we have jazz, blues. I mean, you can't think of blues without guitar. You have rock and roll, you have rock, you have metal, and all of these music, forms of music have extensively used the guitar. Then even within Bollywood, there's been a lot of guitar usage. You can't think of Bollywood music without the guitar.
Correct.
And I mean, whether it's music from like the older generations of Bollywood music, whether it's from SD Burman Saab, RD Burman Saab, and like it's always been around. Then you expand it slightly more, and the guitar has been used for music like gypsy jazz, which is like a form of jazz that's come out of Europe.
Okay.
And it's been used for Latin music, South American music. So it's everywhere. Like that's one instrument that you will find so commonly across all genres. And then using it in Carnatic music, it just made sense because it's something that, the guitar just lends itself to whatever music you want to play on it. Subject to how you treat it, of course, and how you, want to approach the instrument and how you want to deal with the tone and all that. But you can actually use the guitar to make something really beautiful with, even the very demanding forms of music like Carnatic music, which are generally perceived as very purist or whatever. But I found that the guitar doesn't, you don't need to dilute anything on the guitar. It can deliver whatever you ask of it. So the guitar made perfect sense because it was one of my favorite instruments. And Carnatic music being one of my favorite genres of music, it just made perfect sense to kind of put the two together.
Correct.
Yeah.
In your childhood or in your initial years as a musician, you've played quite a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
And then you finally zeroed down on guitar.
Yeah.
How?
I think the guitar zeroed down on me more than anything else. Because I started off with dabbling with keyboards. The first ever instrument I played was a keyboard, and then I was learning tabla in my childhood. I learned tabla for a few years, which again is an instrument that I really love, by the way. I played a little bit of drums. I used to play the bass guitar as well. I dabbled a little with the violin also. I've had a bit of a very explorative journey in music, but when I first played the guitar, I just knew, this is something that I want to do extensively. It just locked into place for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it made perfect sense.
All right. And now more about how it's going. So like you play concerts, you play with bands, you play duets. So a little about how the Carnatic guitar is facing the stage now.
So that's the thing. I mean, primarily as a Carnatic artist, I give Carnatic concerts, solo concerts. I've done solo concerts. I've even accompanied artists where I feel that the experience will be something that was enriching or something that I could learn from. I've even accompanied a few artists. Then I've done Jugalbandi concerts, especially with a lot of Hindustani classical artists, because it's something. It's a very interesting form of concert, the Hindustani Carnatic Jugalbandi, as cliched as it may be nowadays. But it's actually, like, if you dig deep down into the approach, the artistic approach of that kind of a concert, it's very interesting because you have the same set of notes.
Right.
And you have two soundscapes that are being created there on the spot that can sound absolutely the same and can sound completely different at the same time. So it's like a mental trip, for the audience as well and for the artists as well who are participating in this concert. So so Jugalbandi concerts plus collaborative efforts with like a lot of bands. So I don't like to restrict myself to anything. I like to explore, I like to learn, I like to play with as many artists as possible, because with each experience on stage, with each person that you're playing with, and with each kind of music that you're playing with, there's always something to learn, something to pick up, something that will enhance your brain in its own little way. So that's something that I live for. That's something that I like to discover as I go in my journey. So that's what I do.
Perfect. So, coming to a slightly different topic now, you've chosen music for life, but then in the meantime, school must have happened, college must have happened, and work also must have happened. How did you, you worked for a regular 9 to 5 job at some point of time in your life?
At a very short point of time.
And then you have switched back to music. So what I want to know is whether switching back was a difficult decision to make, and two, what would you recommend people who are who are scared to switch back to music because they don't want to lose their job?
So I mean, when I first got out of college, music has always been with me, like throughout my school days and throughout my college. In fact, and I don't recommend anyone try this, but I bunked most of my college life to just sit and spend time with my guitar. So I used to take my guitar to college and bunk all my lectures and go and sit on the hill behind our college. If anyone
can get you in trouble.
Well, I mean, so sue me, I did that. But I mean, for parents of kids who are watching this interview, this comes with a disclaimer. Please don't try this out. But I mean, I really liked that journey. It was something that I wanted to do for myself, and I enjoyed doing that. I just went on my own trip and just explored the instruments. And then right after college, I got a job which was more or less like a 9 to 5 job, and that's probably the only 9 to 5 job I've held in my life. And I think I must have been there for about 2 months max, 1.5 to 2 months. And I knew that this is not something that I'm cut out for. It's not something that I'm suited for. So I quit that place. My bosses were very supportive of me though, and they were very encouraging as well. They were very understanding about why I wanted to quit and what I wanted to do in the future. So for me, the decision to quit a 9 to 5 and become a full-time musician was very easy, because I couldn't do anything else other than music. But for people who are doing another job and are trying to balance music along with that, I would recommend go with whatever makes you comfortable. Like, go with, if you have a good job which is getting you good money, and if you're able to balance music along with that, and if it makes you feel comfortable, go with that. As long as anything feels okay, go with it. The day that it starts feeling not okay, you can take that decision and step back. It's all about feeling okay, it's all about feeling comfortable, it's all about feeling happy with what you're doing. Because we don't know how life pans out, and we have this short span of life on this little blue ball that we are rolling in space at whatever hyper speeds, and we got to do what we got to do, and we have to enjoy life, make the most of it, learn as much as we can, and explore as much as we can, mentally and physically, whatever you want to call it. But so yeah, coming back to the whole job and music thing, it's, for some people it might be an easy decision. You can just quit and just become a musician. If that's lucrative, if that works for you, go for it. I mean, it's an unparalleled journey. Music is a very, very interesting journey, so definitely go for it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next topic that we want to discuss, social media and musicians. You have a presence on social media, and like we discussed before the interview, and like you said, it's a necessary evil. So we want to know more about what is social media for musicians these days, for young musicians to be specific. How much should we let social media influence us, and how much should we try to influence the social media? Your insights on that.
Okay. So when I say necessary evil, I'm speaking purely from a personal point of view. I don't expect anyone to subscribe to that. I'm sure social media is very, very helpful for a lot of people. For me, myself, I mean, I've gained a lot also from social media, being on social media, because it definitely helps you to make connections and network, get your music out there.
This interview is happening because of social media.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. So yeah, so this, I mean, things like this, you're able to connect with people and all that. But for people like me who are very, reserved and withdrawn, on a daily basis, social media can get a little tiring. The whole keeping up with the whole game thing can get tiring at times. But that's just a personal opinion. And what I recommend is, especially for musicians, social media can be a little demanding, because everything is, we've come from 4-hour classical concerts to 1-hour classical concerts, or trying to put something down in a 30-second reel. And that's obviously not very conducive to creative explorations, but it is something that we have to adapt with times, and this is how it is now. So we try and adapt as much as possible with that. So even I'm trying to do that as much as I can possibly do, as long as we don't let that rule over us, or become the factor that completely dominates our music. I think that's okay, as long as you just use it as a platform for reaching out to people, getting your music out there, networking with people, connecting with people. That's good, I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would also like you to elaborate on this, because most of the times what happens is that it becomes more than a mere platform.
Yeah.
It becomes a tool to measure your talent. It becomes a tool to measure your creativity.
Yeah.
That okay, I did not get enough attention on social media, and therefore my music is not good enough. I think that's a completely wrong approach.
Yeah.
So can you share your?
I mean, it's a little skewed, because social media, again, art is a very subjective thing. So you don't know what people might end up liking, what people might end up connecting with. So maybe for certain people, a certain artist might not do that well with certain people, and a certain artist might end up doing well. But that alone should not be a commentary on the artist's talent, or the artist's intellect, or the ability for that artist to be able to be a good performer. Because a lot of times we see, I mean, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but a lot of times we see that a lot of, again, it's very subjective, but a lot of mediocrity can also sometimes get a little unwarranted attention. And sometimes someone doing something really good, someone's put a lot of effort into something, and that might just have like, some 137 likes, and some very, very mediocre, or some very, I don't know, I don't even know how to put it without being completely politically incorrect, but something.
We should worry about it at this point in time, because I'm pretty sure there are many viewers of musical who are going to agree with you on this. So
Hopefully, yeah. So I mean, that's what, like, a lot of people who might have like an uneducated opinion on music, or who might think that just knowing one or two chords can make one a masterful musician. It's not that simple. Music cannot be that simple, and should not be reduced to something that simple, I feel. If it's beautiful, that's fine, but when it's when that it's something that is mediocre, or something that's not been thought through completely, and then when you see something like that getting like 4 million views or something like that, then it can be a little demotivating. But at the same time, I feel this is how the world is today. You can't change that, but we can change our reaction to it. And most of life it's all about that. Like it's about how we react to a certain situation. So if we're able to somehow get a grip on that and put our head down and work on our art, I think that's the most important thing.
okay.
Yeah, because I mean, this is something which even personally speaking also, there are times when you feel completely demotivated to put any kind of content out, or you just feel like, arey, why are we doing this? It's not going to have the kind of reach that maybe some Bollywood song will have. So why are we doing this? But then that's the point. You got to do it, because otherwise it's just going to die out, and that's not fair. That's not fair to something so beautiful. These kinds of music have survived for so many thousands of years, and it's not fair that we don't work for the propagation of this music to the best of our abilities, of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this struggle of trying to preserve the heritage, at the same time being adaptable to the recent trends
Yeah.
of the changing world. So, like you said, in a compact 30-second reel, how much of music can you show anyway?
Yeah.
So then there is a trend of showing the most beautiful, or the most attractive, or the most eye-catching portion of the music in those 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that symbolizes music in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, this whole 30-second concept, if we want to take it in a positive way, it's really made you think about, being able to bracket something into its absolutely atomic form. You come down to the very basics of it and see what elements can I include in this 30-second reel that will make it relevant, that will make it beautiful, that will still make it aesthetic, and be truthful to the kind of music that you're trying to show. So it makes you think in different ways, because you don't have time anymore to kind of elaborate on a particular thought process. So how do you kind of make it compact? It's literally like, it's like a black hole. It's literally coming down within itself. It's literally like that. It's collapsing into itself. It's interesting in that sense.
How are you going with this trend along this?
It's interesting because initially I also had my misgivings about this kind of trend, but I discovered that putting down a 30-second reel or something can actually help to forward the cause of a music like this. In my case, it's Carnatic classical on a guitar. So this is something that I want to kind of take forward and bring it to the mainstream market as much as is possible within my limited means. So it helped me to get this music across to people who may not have heard something like this happening on the guitar, or did not even think that something like this was possible, but it still appealed to them, and it still made them aware of something like this. So I have a lot of students who've never even heard Carnatic music before, or never knew that it was possible on the guitar, who simply because they heard the reel, or came across my music somewhere else, and thought about, oh, this sounds good, this sounds interesting, and this is something that I want to do. So they've approached me, and then I've been teaching them, and now they are learning to play they're learning to play Carnatic music on the guitar. So yeah, it's helped in that sense, to take that music forward. So I'm going to just look at it in a positive way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, coming to the teaching part, you are by far, I know, the only person who plays Carnatic music on a guitar.
There are a lot of people, as in there are not many people, but there are other people who play Carnatic.
Exactly, but not as much as people who pursue other kinds of music, including Hindustani classical, vocal, the one that I pursue.
Okay.
So since you are teaching, there's no set syllabus, there's no traditional method of teaching, I'm assuming. So how are you going about it? I mean, you also have to teach the person the music, and you also have to teach the person the instrument.
Yeah.
And how are you going about it?
So with Carnatic music, actually, that's one of the beautiful things about Carnatic music is there's actually a very standardized syllabus that is there. I mean, I don't know if syllabus is the right word, but because these are traditional compositions and exercises that have been handed down from generation to generation now, some of the exercises that we begin with in Carnatic music date back almost 200-300 years. So,
Okay.
And they've just been handed down, from guru to shishya like that for a long time. So they are very standardized, they're very helpful, and they are very conducive to opening up the students, bank of Carnatic music knowledge, or knowledge about the swaras and knowledge about how to execute basic gamakas and all of that. So I usually start off with that, and I think most Carnatic teachers would also go about the same way. There are degrees of difference, of course, because everyone's approach will vary, but more or less, I think everyone is kind of sticking to a similar kind of pattern, where we start off with these exercises. They're called Sarali Varisais, Janta Varisais, Dhatu Varisais, all of that. Then there are Alankaras, then there are Varnams, then there are, you first start off with Geetams, and then Swarajati, all of that, and then you go on to Varnams, and then other compositions. You kind of, increase the range bit by bit, and with Carnatic music, there's a lot of melodic exploration with different kind of ragas. So if you've taken a composition which is in one particular raga, then the next composition you take up, it can be in a raga that uses notes that are completely different. So what happens is it increases the student's range of playing. So because it increases the range, it also helps the student to understand the plethora of possibilities that are available within this music, the melodic possibilities, the creative possibilities, the intellectual possibilities.
That is about learning or teaching music.
Yeah.
How do you put that on the guitar? Because so do you also teach them how to play traditional guitar, or how does it generally go?
So with my students, I'm only teaching them Carnatic guitar. I'm not teaching them any other form like Western guitar or anything, because I don't know if I'm qualified enough to teach that form of music.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I teach Carnatic guitar right from scratch all the way up to like advanced, students who want to learn advanced forms of Carnatic music. So it's like that. I start right from the basics. So if it's a person who's never even held a guitar before in life, I can start from there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now coming to the instrument part, I've always wanted to ask you this. Many a time when the instruments are imported from some other culture, we tend to make changes in the structure of the instrument.
Yeah.
to suit the intonation of our genre of music.
Yeah.
However, in your case, you've not tampered with the structure of the instrument at all.
Yeah.
It's the electric guitar that is used, otherwise it's the same one
Yeah.
that you use for your style. Any specific reason for that, and whether that has caused any impediments in exploring music?
I think probably because I'm too lazy, so I didn't want to carry the guitar to a shop, ask him to build a special set of modifications to it and all of that. No, I'm just kidding. I think I wanted to see if we could play something absolutely traditional without diluting the form of music on an absolutely normal guitar. So my whole idea was to be able to approach Carnatic music on an absolutely normal guitar, where like you can just walk into a shop, you can just pick up any guitar and be able to play traditional Carnatic classical on it. So to see if that was possible, I started playing in a way, I kind of formulated my own style of playing. So it may not be traditional Carnatic guitar playing also, because I play in the standard tuning. I don't use a Carnatic tuning. So I play in the standard guitar tuning, which is the standard Western tuning of E, A, D, G, B, E. For those who play the guitar, they'll know. And I kind of try to develop my own system of playing so that I can still stick to the standard tuning, whereas still be able to stick to as pure a form of Carnatic music as possible on this.
Okay, I would say that just shows how much music is universal.
It is. It absolutely is.
And your effort is definitely making it more accessible, so that nobody is deprived of learning Carnatic classical music because they don't have the right instrument.
Yeah. That was the idea. That is the idea.
And that is really noteworthy.
Thank you. Because I personally felt that the guitar itself is such a versatile instrument, and it so easily fits into anything that any kind of music. So why not Carnatic music in its purest form? Let's see if it happens. If it doesn't happen, then let's see where we can take it. But fortunately it worked, and it's been a very interesting journey so far. And of course I'm still discovering things every day. That doesn't stop, as any artist will tell you. That process just goes on and on and on. But yeah, it's been very interesting so far.
Correct. Before we move to the final topic of discussion, our research team has taken some effort. And there are 3 things that we found out: books, movies, and video games. Do you have something to say about it?
Yeah, absolutely love all of them.
More than that.
In fact, I think had I not been a musician, I would have definitely gone into either something to do with movies. In fact, now I am kind of involved with movies in a musical way. But other than that, definitely something to do with movies, either acting or direction, both. I like both. And video games, specifically not video games so much, but like racing. So sim racing.
Research team, please take a note. It's not video games, it's racing.
Yeah, it's part of video games only, but like to narrow it down, it's about sim racing. I'm very fond of sim racing, and it's something that I do very regularly, and I've found it actually benefited my music a lot in terms of concentration, in terms of reflexes, mental reflexes, everything. So when I found that something I love doing outside of music is helping my music, it was like even more motivation to go and indulge in that. But yeah, that and books I've grown up with. I can't imagine a life without books. So any minute I get free, I'm reading books. So back in the olden days when we used to take local trains, when there was no virus called COVID, I used to even stand in a crowded local train like this and like be reading on my phone. So stuff like that, But yeah, I love books, and I like collecting books, especially even rare books, old books, vintage books. I like collecting books. It's That's because people think people who have a lot of books are very well read, but or very educated and know everything. But I think it's the opposite. I have books because I don't know anything, and I want to know as much as possible. So I go on buying books because that helps.
That's a lot of modesty in the first
No,
place.
I'm not being modest. I'm being absolutely honest because I actually genuinely feel like there's so much out there to learn, and like I really don't know much about the
Should
world.
musicians
Yeah.
actually make it a point to read a lot? I'm just asking generally.
It helps. It definitely helps. I mean, for me, like I can give a personal example. I read a lot of books on art. I indulge a lot in the world of art, so sculpture, painting, architecture, that kind of a thing. It's something that interests me, and I realized that actually understanding other artists' works, understanding the history of art, understanding the history of even something like sculpture or architecture is something that really helped my music grow a lot. And I remember even when I was hitting roadblocks while making my personal album, my solo album, I would just take a break and read about some artist or read about their approach, and that would really open up some tiny little nook in my brain that would kind of help with the production or the compositional part or creatively, because it gives you an insight into what the human brain is capable of, you know because understanding how an artist approaches his art, why in the first place we're doing all of this, why we're making art, we're creating art, we're making music, or we're painting something or drawing, writing, whatever we are doing, we're doing it to explore ourselves first and foremost. And understanding that process a little better always helps on a personal level. So definitely, I think if you are a person who likes to read, if you're an artist and you like to read, that's a big plus. That's a big thumbs up, big advantage.
Perfect. Now coming to the final topic of discussion, music production. So recently Abhay has come up with an album. The links and details of which I'm going to put in the description, and I highly recommend that you all should go and check that out. But I want to ask Abhay at this point of time, how did that happen?
So for the album, I have one person to thank above everyone else. That is Sandeep Chautaji, and he's actually like my bigger brother now.
Okay.
And the album happened because of him. But it's very interesting because I grew up listening to a lot of different kind of music, and one of the artists that always inspired me was him. When I was growing up, I heard the soundtrack of Satya, and I was like, wow, this is something completely different. This approach is completely different. So I was marveling at his brain. So having grown up listening to his music and then actually getting the opportunity to meet with him and collaborate with him on a few projects was like, it was one of the greatest honors of my life. It was one of the greatest things that happened to me. And then I remember it was one very cold December night in Bangalore when we were just sitting and talking at his place, and he actually was the one who put the idea forth that I should finally come out with my solo album. It was something that I had been wanting to do for a long time, but it was kind of never coming to fruition, or I was kind of delaying it and kind of procrastinating on it. But it finally happened, and he co-produced the album with me, and I'm very fortunate that that happened. And we released it under his label, Namma Music. And the album did fairly well for a debut solo album, so I'm very, very glad about it. So music production actually happened because of a very strange thing, and that's the pandemic. I've never produced music before that, so I didn't know the P of production or recording techniques or mixing or anything. For me, music was always taking my guitar, getting on stage and playing. That was it. But with concerts coming to almost completely a halt during the pandemic, it felt like the natural step to take, because I wanted to be able to get some music out and make it sound good at the same time. It couldn't just be the raw stuff that I was doing earlier. And that's when I got myself into production and learning about the techniques of production, learning to think like a producer, learning to record all the stuff all on my own and everything. So it was a very, very steep learning curve, but a very, very interesting one. So that's how music production came about, because of the pandemic. And I'm very glad that I went in that direction, because the journey so far has been very, very fruitful. It's been really gratifying, and I was able to do a couple of movie scores. In fact, I'm working on 2 more movie scores right now, and I did a score back in August for this movie for the legendary dancer Savita Shastri ji, and it was directed by A.K. Shrikant, her husband. And so that movie, the concept was brilliant, the subject was brilliant, the movie was made brilliantly, and I was so fortunate to be a part of it. And everything had to be done very quickly, because I got onto the project very late. And I remember I got a call from Shrikant ji, and he said, we heard your album and we would like you to would you be interested in doing the score for this movie? And I didn't know anything about scoring at that time, but I said yes. I was like, yes, let's do it. And then after I hung up, then I sat down on the bed and I was thinking, okay, how am I even going to do this? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. But again, every journey, like I said, it's if you're on the path, things start opening up for you. If you start discovering things, and then from one discovery you go to another and another, and that chain kind of continues, and that's how the score got made. I think the score got made in about five days.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had very little time to put everything together.
Okay.
And the movie was about to release, and we did that score, and fortunately it got a very good reception. I won an award for that debut score in
You do
the
not
Delhi.
see that with a plain face. Okay. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's just, for me, I'm just very, very I'm very humbled, and I'm very encouraged to be able to create more, because an award is nothing but an encouragement, like getting that appreciation and admiration from your peers is the boost that you need to be able to want to create more music, want to learn more, want to keep pushing yourself out of the comfort zone, keep reaching for the stars, I guess. I don't know, to use a cliched term, but yeah, it's been very interesting. Yeah.
Coming back to your first album, let me also tell the viewers of Musical that it made to the first.
It made it to the final ballot round of the Grammys, which I absolutely did not expect at all. At all. I didn't even think it would. When we made the album, we didn't even think about all of this. We just wanted to create music, We just wanted to make music and put it out there. And I wanted to make a statement with my guitar. So when I composed whatever I did for the album, I didn't think anything beyond that. I was just, this is what I want to say. I've said it. That's it. Ho gaya abhi. Mera kaam khatam. But then we happened to enter the album we just thought, okay, let's try. And we entered the album for the Grammy awards, and fortunately it kind of made it through all the way to the ballot round. So I'm very, very honored by that. That's still just, that's still something that you work on for maybe motivation, but when you're actually making the album, you're barely thinking about all these things at all. Like, the only thing you're thinking about when you're making the album is what statement do you make with this note or with this phrase or with this little section here. That's all.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also, taking the same point a little forward, uh, of course, making it to the final ballot rounds of Grammy is nothing short of achievement, right? But I just want your insights on whether it also means recognition, whether it also means the starting point of a new journey, whether it also means that yes, I've received this and that is uh, one achievement, or that is one milestone that I've crossed. But now here onwards, I am going to get noticed by a lot of people, a lot more people than I earlier used to. I'm also going to uh, not I is not the person or the musician, but the kind of music.
Yeah.
Do you think? Do you think so? What are your opinion? What is your opinion about this?
See, to be very, very honest, I'm just very, very thankful to have had all this happen, because I didn't even expect it. Like if you told me at the beginning of last year or even the beginning of this year, 2021, that all of this would happen, I would have been like, okay, no. So when all of this happened, I was really, really grateful, because more than a personal milestone, I don't even know if I look at it as a milestone so much as I'm just very thankful that so many people heard my album because of that. Even people, some very, very distinguished peers in the music industry, the recording academy, the people in the Grammy voting, the people who vote for the Grammys, all of them heard my album. It reached them, and just the thought that there were people around the globe who were sitting and listening to this tiny little thing that I'd created sitting in my room here in this house was fascinating. It was just overwhelming to even think about. So I'm just very grateful that it even got where it got, and for all the people who heard the album, it's we don't give people who listen to music enough credit. Like, we think it's an achievement for the artist. Okay, maybe it is on a certain level, but if nobody is listening to your music, then it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Correct.
So we just it's so I'm so glad that people took time off from their precious lives and gave this a listen. So I'm glad to all. I'm very grateful to all those people who took time out, not just the people in the Grammy voting list, but even every single person who heard the album, even wrote back to me saying they liked it, or every single one of those wishes meant the world.
Well, that brings us to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much, Abhay, once again
Thank you for having me.
joining us for this wonderful discussion. And I'm sure the viewers of Musical have also gotten a lot of new insights. They've gotten to know a lot of new things. By the way, this is also the first time I'm interviewing or interacting with a Carnatic classical musician.
Oh wow! Okay.
So this is the first time
Honored.
for the viewers of Musical as well. So I hope I hope there were a lot of things that you could take away from this discussion. Please tell me what you thought about this whole interview in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to your comments. I have put the link to Abhay's channel in the description, and it's highly recommended that you go check his art out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share this video with all of those you think need to see this, and for more such content, subscribe to my channel. See you again on Saturdays. Bye.
Bye.